Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. I am your host, as always, John Zadsura, and we're welcoming you live today from a dialogue den, our famous dialogue den, here in our studio, and from our creative sanctuary here in our dialogue den. I'm your host, and today we're popping the tab on one of the most iconic rivalries in business history, Pepsi versus Coca-Cola. But here's the twist. In 2025, Pepsi isn't even in second place anymore, guys. That spot now belongs to the quiet underdog of Dr. Pepper. That's right. You heard me correctly. Dr. Pepper, its own category, taking the lead in second place away from Pepsi. So how did we get here? How can we learn from this long-running war of brands? How does it tie back to our own stories of perseverance and reinvention in the business world or in our personal lives? So let's slip into it. So before Pepsi and Coke were marketing juggernauts, which they are, and leaders in the beverage industry, there were just two pharmacy-born drinks. Coca-Cola was created in 1886 by John Pemberton in Atlanta, originally marketed as a medical tonic, even though it had coca leaves in it. Coke quickly became a cultural staple in the South, and Pepsi followed in 1893, first known as Brad's drink. Never heard of that in my lifetime. Brad's drink, invented in North Carolina. It was renamed Pepsi Cola in 1898 with the formula also aimed at aiding in digestion, boosting energy, a soda that boosts energy. It's all the sugar in there. But in the early 20th century, the rivalry brewed slowly, but things really heated up during the Great Depression. And I want to emphasize that during the Great Depression, that these branding wars and between these two beverages. While Coca-Cola was selling 6-ounce bottles for a nickel, Pepsi came out swinging and offering 12 ounces for the exact same price. Twice the drink for the same money. Now you're talking. And in a time where people were every penny counted, giving the same amount of your dollars, the same amount of price for the same money, double your product for twice the money, that's what counted. And that is exactly what Pepsi took advantage of. That was a bold move, and it worked. Bold moves that work create lasting impact and value. Even in hard times, bold value wins loyalty. And Pepsi knew this well. And what people needed it knew what people needed at the time, and it gave them more for the same price as a leading competitor. That's smart, it's business savviness, and it's perseverance. Fast forward to the 1980s a bit, a long fast forward, hold your remote control down, and things did get up. We entered the full-blown era of the Cola Wars, a full-blown advertising arms race. Pepsi kicked it off with the Pepsi Challenge, a series of blind taste tests showing people choosing Pepsi over Coca-Cola. They weren't subtle about this. They aired these reactions on national TV, declared Pepsi the winner nationally. They also locked in massive celebrity endorsements and deals such as Michael Jackson, Madonna, Britney Spears, turning Pepsi into the brand of the youth, pop culture, and rebellion, a drink of rebellion to signify rebellion. So Coca-Cola panicked, of course, and in 1985 they tried to launch New Coke, reformulating the original recipe to taste more like Pepsi, their competition. Big mistake. The backlash was so intense that people wrote letters, they protested, they demanded the return of the original formula. This is over a beverage. Demanded the return of the original formula. Picture that. Within months, Coke surrendered, releasing Coca-Cola Classic and quietly phasing out New Coke forever. So that flop taught Coke a brutal lesson. Never stray far from who you are, and it taught Pepsi a dangerous one too. Just because you win a round in the ring, in business, doesn't mean you win the full-blown war. For decades, Coke and Pepsi competed not just on taste, but on culture, loyalty, and identity, brand identity. It wasn't just soda anymore. It was a statement. But what was to come next would catch Coke and Pepsi by surprise. The shift towards healthier alternative drinks. But while they were busily battling each other, the world changed. And it snuck up on them quick. In the early 2000s, soda sales began to fall. Why? People were starting to get health conscious. Around that whole time period, consumers, especially millennials and Gen Z, started asking deeper questions. How much sugar is in this? What are these artificial ingredients? What is this drink going to do to my energy, my skin, my body, my weight? And asking those deeper questions. So documentaries like Super Size Me exposed the dark side of the sugary drinks, sugary diets. Soda became the enemy of health, and sales started to dip, not just a little bit, started to plummet and dip and fizzle off. For the first time in decades, being the best tasting cola, soda, beverage wasn't enough. So bottled water sales exploded. Brands like DeSanti, Aquafina, Smart Water became household names in total opposition to the beverages, to Pepsi, to Coca-Cola, the enemy of health. Sparkling water rose next. LaCroix, Bubbly, which is also owned by Pepsi, gave customers bubbles without the guilt. Now, then came the functional drinks, kombucha, electrolyte waters, vitamin-infused beverages, CBD teas, you name it. People weren't just choosing drinks, they were choosing identities that aligned with their body goals, their physical goals, where they wanted to see themselves. They made statements such as, I drink this because I care about my body. I avoid soda. I want energy without the crash. Beverages became lifestyle statements. So how did Coke and Pepsi respond? They adapted. Coca-Cola acquired these brands like Vitamin Water and even tea companies like Honest Tea. PepsiCo bought SodaStream, kombucha, and induced zero sugar bubbly, which is still a huge drink today. But they were chasing a new game in a new arena that they had little to no awareness or control over, and an entirely new industry. But again, Dr. Pepper was waiting in the wings while all this was happening. So while Coke and Pepsi were busy adjusting their identities and fixing their brand messaging, Dr. Pepper stayed the course. No radical rebranding, no crazy campaigns, just a loyal fan base. 23 flavors sticking to a set number and a quirky charm that people love. And Dr. Pepper has always been a bit of a wild card. I'm not too sure exactly who would be asking where Dr. Pepper was at your last party, but again, it's always been a wild card. It's not root beer, it's not a cola, it's just Dr. Pepper is its own brand. And in a world where authenticity matters more than ever, that quiet consistency while those two brands are battling it out paid off. And today in 2025, Dr. Pepper has officially overtaken Pepsi in the US as soda's ranking, as sitting right behind Coca-Cola, knocking out Pepsi. So Dr. Pepper didn't need to be louder, it needed to be real. And that's a message all of us can learn from in the world of business, in the world of personality, just our personal brand. So what do the cola wars actually teach us at the end of the day? That in any battle, whether it's for market share or personal growth, knowing who you are is your greatest asset, your greatest advantage, and sticking to it is the thing that can give you the most value. It's not about having the biggest billboard. It's about staying true when the world shifts. How do you adapt and align with that shift and change that trajectory to hit those KPIs, to hit those business goals? It's about flying under the radar until your moment comes. And that is it for today's episode, guys. I wanted to put this out there. The cola wars have been a staple in business and marketing and branding for decades. And I knew many of our perseverance pioneers would greatly benefit from this information if you knew very little about the cola wars. If today's episodes gave you a fresh perspective on just branding, marketing, personal growth, or made you crave a Pepsi or Coca-Cola or a Dr. Pepper or a Fanta, you didn't hear it from me. But stay tuned for more of the stories that fuel personally, professionally, in the world of business, tech, finance, current events. So until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep on persevering. Thank you guys, and God bless.